FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
And welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. The date is July 22nd, 2015, and we are in Wednesday's What's Imploding Now with Andrew Hoffman. Andy, well, implosion is the byword with the world economy literally imploding, turning into dust before your very eyes, and you called it. You've been calling it for years, but it's really happening now, isn't it?
Yes. Well, today's article I just wrote is called Worldwide Economic Collapse Accelerating at a Frightening Pace. And the CRB commodity, well, actually, the Bloomberg Commodity Index hit a 13-year low yesterday. The CRB Index, which is a slightly different composite, is, I think, 1% above its 2009 lows. And more importantly, it's only 4% above the 40-year support levels that have been holding up since the early 1970s. And as I watch the oil PPT desperately supporting WTI crude at exactly $50 a barrel, after yet another huge increase in inventories to the highest crude oil inventories in 80 years, it's really remarkable to watch everything across commodity land collapse. And they're so desperate to keep the most important commodity of all from breaching its lows, because you remember, you still have $500 billion of junk bonds and leveraged loans supporting the high-cost shale industry, let alone all the other oil industries around the world. And people don't realize this. One, these tax incentives have been pushing the shale producers to produce even more. And even worse than that, all the hedges that were created, that were purchased by the shale producers, at higher prices, are all terminating in the next couple of months.
That's
so
right.
There won't even be hedges to save them anymore. So I think it's pretty obvious. Just watch that oil price, how desperate they are to keep it from falling further. And it's already down enough to destroy the whole industry. But, everything else is falling across the board. And it's only a matter of time before oil breaches not only its lows from earlier this year, but, far lower levels.
Yeah. It's how low can it go? That's really the question. Can it go down to $30, $20 a barrel? I read an article, Andy, that 24 countries are crashing right at this moment. And that's not including the U.S. and various European countries that you and I both know are imploding. China is imploding. Really every economy in the world is imploding when you get down to it. And even the economies that appear healthy are in serious danger.
Well, none appear healthy. It's like the only thing that's, quote, healthy here is the PPT supporting stocks. I mean, Apple reported earnings yesterday that included an unexpected 20% drop in Chinese sales. Remember, that's what's fueling Apple's growth and their $800 billion market cap. I mean, that's showing. I mean, China is the only thing that can support the entire world. And I mean, to say it's in free fall is an understatement. Forget that the government is in there now overtly holding up the biggest stock bubble in history. I mean, but you saw that overnight they had data that showed their economic confidence index fell like 10% last month alone to its lowest level since January 2009. And then you look at the commodity prices over there, steel and iron ore and coal, et cetera, et cetera. Look at the base metal prices, across the board. Look at lumber prices for those who believe there's actual housing recovery. I mean, it's everywhere and it's pervasive and it's explosive on the downside. And that's why I'm still amazed. I mean, propaganda is one thing, but they still talk as if the Fed is going to raise rates. I mean, Janet Yellen did her Humphrey Hawkins hearings last week and couldn't be more dovish if she tried. The Fed this morning or yesterday on their own blog said that the stronger dollar is providing a headwind to growth. The White House just hired someone who's a specialist in currency manipulation because they are worried about the strong dollar. And across the board, the data is falling apart. The commodity prices are falling apart. Even tech stocks are having trouble staying up in this environment. And people still talk as if, forget raising a quarter of a point, they talk as if the Fed is going to somehow do something that's bullish, or I should say hawkish. They're going to raise rates. They're not going to raise rates. And even if they ever did that, it would be by like 0.1% just to show that they could do it. And then they'll go right back and lower it again. The Fed has the largest, most highly leveraged balance sheet on the planet of bonds. The White House is the most indebted entity in the history of the planet. And the whole planet has never been more indebted. So why anyone would think that they'd be raising rates, let alone when you have record high valuations of stocks, of bonds, of real estate? No, rates, the only thing that's going to make rates go up is the reality that they are overvalued, that bonds are overvalued. In the meantime, the central banks are only going to explode higher, with their QE. One, for the currency war, they got to try to get manufacturing market share back, which, by the way, doesn't work. And two, because they need to monetize all these bonds. I mean, just in Greece, right? We're talking about they say that they were bailed out and they ran the stock market up because of it. The thing is, they haven't gotten any bailout. There's another vote today in the Greek parliament, which may actually cancel the bailout. They've reopened the banks, except no one's putting money in and you can't take money out. They haven't reopened the stock market. The National Bank of Greece ADRs are at an all-time low. Alexis Tsipras may well get shot in the street if he even survives to the next election. And they haven't even discussed an actual bailout. All they had was that vote last week that said, yes, the people voted no, but the parliament said, yes, we will agree to discuss a bailout. I mean, Greece isn't even going to get to a bailout, and they're talking about it like the country is fixed.
Yeah, well, there's definitely major turmoil afoot, and nobody knows what to do about it.
Don't forget on this topic, it's July now. In December is Spain's election, where the Syriza of Spain, led by Juan Pablo Iglesias, who's far more charismatic than Alexis Tsipras, he's going to be elected the prime minister. And then, of course, we have Catalonia, which last year voted by 89% to 4% to secede. They're the largest province in Spain. A month after that, in January, you have Portugal's elections, and the same thing's going to happen. Marine Le Pen in France, who's going to be the next president there after the Greek Oxy vote, said, I'm doing the same thing here. Beppe Grillo already is circulating a petition for Italy to get out of the Eurozone. I mean, that's just Europe. And then you have in England, which isn't even part of the European currency, they are going to probably be voting next year to get out of the European Union, which will cause more trade wars and economic collapse. And that's just Europe. Forget China, forget the United States. Oh, is anyone talking about the rest of the BRICS, by the way? The rupee at a 20-year low, an all-time low right now? How about Brazil, all-time low? The average BRICS currency, aside from China, which is pegged, is down 90% against the dollar since we started with QE3 3 years ago. I mean, everything is going downhill at an incredibly rapid pace, and it's only going to get much worse every single day until finally these guys lose control of the markets the way they've lost control of the economy.
Oh, yeah. It's just a world of hurt and a world of turmoil and a world of chaos that's on the horizon. And you really need to be prepared for it. How long can it just stay in Europe? It's going to spread in Europe. Obviously, this thing is breaking down and reverting back to national currencies no longer is looking like an option, is it?
No, I mean, of course it's going to happen. It's going to happen everywhere. It's going to happen here. We're the top of the totem pole, and Janet Yellen will eventually announce her QE4, and that'll be the end. I already have my, if they have the internet open that day, I already have my article queued up called Ding Dong, the central banks are dead, because it's coming, and it's going to probably come a lot sooner than people imagine. And we haven't even talked yet about what is going on with precious metals.
Oh, yeah. Well, depressing to say the least, not totally surprising, but how much lower are they going to go, Andy?
Well, again, and they are not, quote, going lower. They are being viciously attacked to the point where even someone who's not a conspiracy theorist like me says, are these guys nuts? I mean, I've been talking, how many articles can I write about the end of the mining industry? I mean, I don't think there's been a person on the planet. I mean, there have been a handful up there with me, but as vocal as me about how they're going to destroy the mining industry, especially because I worked in it for 5 years and I know exactly how difficult times were up until 2011, let alone the last 4 years. I mean, what we are seeing right now is the wholesale destruction of an entire industry, I might add, which is already in severe shortage. which is why the mint hasn't sold silver eagles for 3 weeks, and premiums have exploded, and our demand is as high now as it's ever been. That's just in silver. You're seeing across the board, you're seeing increases in premiums and delivery times. And then you look at the mining companies themselves. I mean, Barrick. I just read something that shows their risk of financial distress at 72%. And that's not even including the write-offs that are coming. I mean, if the year ended today at these prices, I would bet that at least 25% of all mining assets in the world will be written off. And I've been saying for some time that the entire South African industry, and then companies like Kinross and like Barrick are toast. I mean, they're all going to go bankrupt. I can't believe these idiots haven't merged yet to try to save themselves. I've been predicting that too, and that's coming. I think that gold supply not only has peaked, it will never return, because once prices go up and the cartel's broken, that simply means that the monetization of gold has begun, and that all the governments are going to start nationalizing and windfall taxing every mine on the planet. So I don't think we're ever going to see production go up again. And as for silver, remember, 2/3 of it is byproduct from base metal production. Back in 2008, 2009, all the base metal mines were closing, and that was killing the production. But this time around, not only are the base metal prices collapsing, so we're going to have the same effect, but the global economy is 1,000 times worse. So those mines are never going to open again. So I think that not only supply of gold peaked, I think supply of silver over the next few years could, literally go down so fast, it will shock people. And this is at a time where we're already at record demand worldwide with record low inventories. So you talk about a perfect storm, and it's only a matter of time before those mining bankruptcies start to get announced. Because remember, they may have to wait till year end officially, but if things get bad enough as they did 2 years ago, the accountants are going to tell them, you got to do it now. And when people see, Barrick broke below $10 for the first time since 2002 on Tuesday. Well, it almost broke below $7 today, just 4 days later. That shows you how rapidly things are falling apart at these prices. And remember, gold is still $1,100 an ounce, and silver is still $15 an ounce. So we're dramatically higher than we were way back when the bear market, when the bull market started, to show you what kind of inflation we have. And one more topic to add to that. I just read an article this morning showing how Jordan Spieth's earnings are like 10 times what Tiger Woods was at this point in his career, just because of the inflation. And that's exactly what's happened to mining costs over the years. They've exploded higher, and it's mostly things that are not ever going to go down. I don't care if the oil price falls from $50 to $20 a barrel. It's immaterial compared to the cost of negotiating with governments, tax regimes, environmental, the fact that all the low-hanging fruit has been found and you got to go to crazy places around the world. I mean, the low-hanging fruit was found in the oil industry up to 10 or 15 years ago, and the same thing has happened in mining. The cost will never, ever materially go down.
Oh, how can it? I mean, energy costs have gone down, which definitely provides some relief. But like you say, it's getting harder and harder to mine. Ore grade's getting lower and lower. And like you say, you got to go to these crazy places with unstable regimes and just bad people that you have to deal with. You got to fight off, right? You got to fight off.
Think about
terrorists,
it, right?
And murders, and how do you? And same with oil too, for that matter.
Yeah, I was an oil analyst for 10 years, and when I left the oil industry in 2005, I was an award-winning analyst at Solomon Smith Barney for 6 years. The cost was $20, $30 a barrel, and all the idiot analysts, the top analysts, were predicting long-term prices of $10 a barrel, because they didn't understand their own business, that costs were rising. And also, inflation at the central banks would destroy their currencies.
Of course.
But the thing is, when I started in that business in 1995 or so, deep water drilling was just starting. Mm-hmm. The day rate on a big rig might have been $150,000 or $120,000. People go nuts. Now it's up to like $900,000, and that's with these low prices right here. Yeah. The cost
discount,
the low-hanging fruit, as we called it, a natural gas running on the treadmill, is gone, and it's long, long gone in mining. And we had a bull market, and I'm reluctant to even call it a bear market now, because all the factors that caused the bull market are still in place. And of course, demand is at an all-time high. It's far higher now than it was at the top when gold was $1,900 a barrel. And by the way, in other currencies, it's far closer to that top. So it's not just a dollar market, it's all the rest of the world. And most people don't use dollars. But the fact is, on a global basis, that I lost my track for a second. The mining industry is falling apart. What was I just talking about, Kerry?
We're talking about costs of recovering oil, really of any type of resource, regardless of what's happened to energy prices, has skyrocketed from when you were an analyst. And that's
I know what I was going to say. What I was going to say is, look, call it the bull market of 2000 to 2011 in gold and silver, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of money went into miners during that time, especially in the early part when it was popular and the government wasn't attacking as viciously. And believe me, they were there attacking every day, but just not like today. I mean, a lot of money went into that. And it was only, from my memory, one major gold discovery in the world in the entire 11 years that I was watching that segment. It was made by a company called Aurelian Resources. It was in Ecuador, a horrible place. It was eventually bought by Kinross Gold, which is about to go bankrupt. It's the 5th largest gold miner on the planet. Right. And the reason why it's never been developed after 10 years is because the Ecuadorian government wants 75% royalties. So Kinross bought it, has never been able to do anything there. And it's still, to this day, they want 75% royalties on it. And that's the only major gold discovery that's ever been made in the past, I'd say, 15 years.
That's right. Yeah. No, you're absolutely correct. And they're just getting harder to find. And, you get a gram of gold per ton. And what's that going to do for you?
And that's what I mean by governments. When governments take things, they destroy them. I mean, you don't need to be told that. When governments manage things, they destroy them. When I was an oil analyst, again, 1995 to 2005, and, one of our jobs at Solomon was to call up all the oil companies in the world. I mean, every one of them. We talked to PDVSA and Pemex and Petrobras and all the companies in Asia. I mean, we had an inline to all these people, so we knew what they were doing. And I remember, I'm guessing the year was about 2002 when Hugo Chavez, maybe it was 2001, came into power in Venezuela, and he decided that he was going to nationalize the whole oil industry. He kicked out Exxon, he kicked out Schlumberger, kicked out everybody. And from that day on, the production absolutely collapsed of oil in Venezuela to this day. Right. And look where Venezuela is now. That is what is going to increasingly happen. That's what Ecuador has done to that project, which hasn't even started. And that's what, when gold does go back up, they're all going to do. They're just going to take them, say it's national security interests, and they'll never, ever get people that will come in and actually produce them. That's where the world is headed. And being that right now, the cartel has destroyed the few things that were able to get done. You're going to have a breakdown in what's ongoing now. Plus, any development that was out there on the horizon will never happen.
Yeah. Oh, I totally agree with you, Andy. There's no question about it. And you just have to look around to see that you're absolutely correct in what you're saying. And it's just, what was that? Was it Batman? The worst is yet to come.
Batman said that?
Yeah, I think it was the narrator when there was a break. And it was to be continued.
Oh, you're talking about the Batman TV show.
Yeah, the Batman TV show. And he said, the worst is yet to come.
Yeah, and same bad channel. I got it.
Right. I think that's what you're going to see here. Horribly so. But then I think it's going to be better because you're going to understand that your government isn't there for you. It's there for the cartel, for the select few, and that they're really not in it to help you. And once that really gets through to the majority of people, I think things are really going to improve.
Yeah, I mean, it's an ugly mix of power and corruption. The corporate sector is there to make money, and the government is there to maintain power. And they have this. I mean, the gold cartel is a perfect example of the two working in tandem, even if they're doing it inadvertently toward the same goal. And what they wind up doing is destroying everything. And then, you throw in the the social aspects, like, oh, well, we'll create Obamacare because it'll get us votes, and all that does is destroy the private sector even further, and the ability of the nation to govern itself, and then you wind up with communist Russia, and the same kind of problems. So yeah, I mean, I have never been more scared in my life, and again, I go back to, because I know a lot of people like to believe in quote conspiracy theories, and of course, I believe in anything where there's proof or reasonable proof of it. But when I look at what's going on specifically in precious metals now, even I am in awe trying to think, I mean, are they absolutely nuts? I mean, if you want to keep people out of gold and silver, the last thing you want to do is destroy the ability of it to get supplied. And that's why you start to think, well, are they really trying to destroy supply? Because we know there's no more inventories left. I mean, just look at the GLD, look at the COMEX, look at the US Mint. The inventories are not to look at the Chinese number. We didn't even discuss the Chinese thing.
Oh,
I mean, it's almost not worth discussing because it's been mathematically proven that they probably have 10, 20,000 tons. But I was the lone wolf. Everyone should read my article from May that says, when will we learn of China's gold hoard? I said, basically, the odds of them announcing, yeah, we have 20,000 tons are the same as the CFTC announcing, yeah, of course, JP Morgan knocks the price of gold down, because it's not in their best interest. They clearly wanted the world to know they have something, but mathematically it's ridiculous. Of course that they don't have 1,600 tons. They have probably 16,000 tons or 16 million. I mean, who knows what the number is? But again, there are people out there. Some are just blind squirrels. I mean, they have no idea what's going on. And some of them may actually have these plans like, we're going to bankrupt all the miners. And I just don't get it. Because even if, some people say, well, the plan is to bankrupt the miners and buy them on the cheap. First of all, they don't have to buy them on the cheap. They can just take them, as I just said. And second of all, the last thing you want to do is own a gold mine, which everyone knows that you can't produce. It's not worth anything to a government if you simply take it. So again, I'm sitting there looking and go, are these guys nuts? Because look at the price of Barrick Gold, of Kinross Gold, of Goldfield. I mean, these companies are the biggest gold miners in the world. They are all about to go bankrupt. If the year ended today, the write-offs would be so big that probably half of the world's largest gold miners, forget the small ones, would be bankrupt. And then, of course, you have the silver sector where, look at the base metal prices. They're all, getting ready to careen toward their 2008 all-time lows, which means they're going to shut down all the mines. But people forget that back in 2008, 2009, it was Rio Tinto, which is the second largest miner in the world, base metals. They almost went bankrupt. Sure. Silver Wheaton almost went bankrupt because the base metal miners started to shut down mines. Now Silver Wheaton's going to go bankrupt because the Canadian government, of all people, just sabotaged them by saying that they can't have tax advantages for being a royalty company. So it's like everyone is conspiring to destroy supply, and they're going to succeed at it. And which is why for years I've been screaming, own the real stuff. Yeah. I mean, God, junk silver premiums just before the mint ran out of Silver Eagles 2 weeks ago were spot plus $2. Today they're spot plus $6 or $7. So for all the people that are upset that their quote silver lost value, it actually hasn't lost much value at all. And if you have junk silver or Silver Eagles, they've gone up in value. Meanwhile, if you own stocks or closed-end funds or ETFs or futures, you are being destroyed and you have nothing to show for it, and you likely will never get it back. Get out of your paper, and that includes Apple and real estate holdings and anything that's a security that's based on government manipulation, and own the real stuff, which cannot be manipulated away.
Yeah, very important there. Very important. I had no idea premiums had spiked that high. Got to be getting close to records
on junk silver. Yes, on Silver Eagles, they've gone up by maybe 25% over the average. Junk to me is the one I watch the most because because they don't make it anymore. They haven't made it in 50 years, and they'll never make it again. And as I call it, the ultimate fear asset, because when people are worried that the worst case scenario is going to occur, they want that bartering thing. And so the fact that the premiums have now exceeded the 2013 highs and are just not going down. In fact, when I look around the industry on the internet, I see almost no supply there at all. I know that people are fearful. And I also know at Miles Franklin that, from Silver Eagles, our premiums are up 25% over average. We now have to wait 4 weeks to get the deliveries in. And, the more that this crisis goes on and the more they keep prices at these ridiculous levels, the more likely we're going to get back into that 2008 situation where we can't source any metal and the premiums go up 100%. And I think in gold, the premiums were like 30 or 40%, couldn't source it anywhere. And people are sitting here waiting and listening to the drivel. I mean, I maybe I'll do it tomorrow when I do my audio blog, just on all the response to what has happened with this ridiculous crash on Sunday night, which was, to me, identical. I mean, absolutely identical in every way, shape, and form to what they did to silver on a Sunday night back in 2011. And you read the commentary and the quote analysis, and I'm not just talking about propaganda. I'm talking about people who are in our industry, some of whom are, quote, the good guys, absolute idiots. People just don't understand the simplest things in front of them. And these are complex issues which are going to be taking down the entire world. And still no one gets it. It is beyond belief. And still people, have the ability to buy gold and silver still here at these prices, and they still aren't doing it. And it's amazing to me.
Amazing. All right, Andy, that's it. So find Andy's work at milesfranklin.com. Sign up for his daily missive as well as his audio blogs. And hey, while you're at it, take a look at financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for our newsletter as well. Andy, we will talk to you next week. Be well.
Looking forward to it.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.